Alrighty, so in this video I'm going to go through the user config settings in the engine file. So just to get here, I just right-clicked on, there we go, right-clicked or edit-click on the PosFX engine plugin. So right-click on this. I'm actually not going to edit in here. I'm going to go to the text editor just because it's a little easier to read the values in here. Make these a little bit bigger for the video. Alright, so starting from the beginning here, these are the only options I think you're really going to be concerned with. The first one is our normal rate. So a rate of, this is the default rate that is going to be getting applied to the position effects. So we will see if we go back and edit our full effect here, that our rate by default is at 0.5. The next two variables underneath that are the multipliers for a high and a low rate. So when I press the high button, again we're talking about the fast and slow button rather, they're going to be referencing a high and a low rate multiplier. So it's going to multiply this number by this number to give you your new rate. So for example, when I click on the fast button and release it, click on the slow button and release it, if we go check the command line, we will see that a rate of 0.625 was applied, which is 0.5 times 1 1/4. And same thing, we'll see that 0.125 was applied, which is 0.5 times 1/4. And then every time we released it, it went back to the original value. So all that to say, these are the numbers you use to control what those fast and slow buttons do, as far as what rate they will apply. If you want to change what the high number is, you can change this from 1.25 to 1.5 if you want, which actually I think is a better default. Okay, below that, as it says, you probably don't need to worry about these, but just in case you're having any specifics that you need to take care of, here they are. So the name of the group that it will be storing to, for referencing, it has to do a whole bunch of weird stuff in the background to be able to maintain the symmetrical selection orders. So to do that, it has to store an extra group. This is the name of that group. It stays stored in your group pool. That is how it is aware of what fixtures have been added or removed from the effect. This is just the name of that effect. It will look for an effect named this. If it doesn't find an effect named this, it will create a new group. In that event, it will start looking here to find a space to store that group in. So if you want it to start looking in the 5,000 instead, you can change this to 5001. This is, again, just a backup in case the group named this doesn't already exist. Below that, there is a separate temp group. This is a group that does not consistently exist. In hindsight, I probably should have put the two next to each other, but anyways, it will look for a space to store groups temporarily while it is doing some of the selection updates, and this is just where it's going to start looking for that space to accomplish that. Pause time, when you use the, basically if you're creating presets for this, where again, like in the color and dimmer effects engines, where you can basically copy this macro and change which values it's using. At the very beginning, there is a pause command. All this does is it tells the plugin not to save anything to the save file for the duration of, by default, it is the duration of 1 second. Which, again, if you have not noticed, the save file is right here, and this is where all of the values for what you have done are stored, so that way when you close your show file and reopen it, you don't have to reset the entire engine. Anyways, this is just how long it will pause during that. Again, not something that you're really probably going to have to deal with, but it's here just in case you want it. Below that, these are actually, I'm going to move these into the range of things that you do want to edit, because that is where they belong. Are your group for interleave and your group for blocks. These are the default groups that it will use when you are doing interleaved groups or block groups. If you give it a value of 0, which we can see if I zoom out just a little bit here. If you give it a value of 0, it will use the same order as the patch. Keep in mind, and I think I spoke incorrectly earlier, MA doesn't actually default to the fixture number ordering when you grab a big range of fixtures. It will actually default to the order that they are seen in your patch. So if they're really weirdly out of order in the patch, that's probably, you might see some weird stuff here. Anyways, I'm defaulting this one to 0. You shouldn't need to alter this one, but the group you use for your blocks is one that you will care about. So again, just the same as we have it set in our selection order, I'm using group 495 for my all left to right group. I'm using that same group for my block interleaves because that is how I want to break the rig into sections, is looking at it dead on, splitting it left to right as one cohesive unit. So you can set that group number here, and it's probably going to be the same number as something you've picked for your all left to right in here. Below that are some parameters labeled install. So by default, and I wanted to show this to you in the text editor because you can see when something's been commented out. If I get rid of these extra dashes, you see that the different colors get restored to the code. So the green means that it's commented out. Lua is not actually reading any of this. It's here, but nothing's happening with it. And this block of text will explain all that, but these are all values that are stored into the save file during the installation. So if I go back to our save file here and I edit it, let's see, so where is install? Install is table 2. So this is everything that has been stored during the installation. If anything needs to be changed in these values, rather than having to go in and try to edit the save file directly, because you'll see that some of these things are a little weird to read, they're not exactly human readable. Lost my thought for a second. If you need to edit any of these, instead of having to come in here and try to change them, you can come in here, uncomment it, and then edit what you want it to look like. This is for very, very specific cases if you're trying to dive deep into it. I do not recommend playing with this. It is just a backup in case something really stupid was entered during installation or whatever the specific case may be, just to give you the ability to edit that afterwards. Again, like for example, if you changed which presets are being read, if you wanted to move the presets that are being read by the effect for in and out, right now it automatically copies to positions 215 and 216. If you want it to be 1001, 1002, you can move those presets there, but then you have to come in here and change these as well to 1001, 1002, so that the plugin engine knows to be reading from those and to be storing to those. So anything you change from the installation that you need to reflect in the plugin, this is where you edit it, but don't take it lightly. You can screw up the engine if you're not careful with it, and as it says here, copy or save your show file, please, before you edit anything in here, because you cannot undo the changes. So, with all of that said, that is everything that you can possibly edit in the engine file. Primarily, you're going to be concerned with these first 5 options, but I just wanted to explain the whole thing in one go, so we have all that information. In the next video, I'm going to go over some edits that have to be taken care of after installation.